The Minnesota Golden Gophers broke a Big Ten three-game losing streak with a victory against Rutgers in shutout fashion, 31-0. We got Daniel House on the line from Gophers Guru. Daniel, how you doing tonight?
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm doing well.
Got the headphones rocking. Nice.
Yeah, I got some new headphones, so testing them out. Hopefully they work great.
Had to test them out on our show.
Yeah, I saved them for you, Mark, just for you.
Absolutely. Well, good to see you. We saw a Minnesota team that for the first 4 games of the season, albeit against lesser competition, appeared to be what a lot of people expected in the offseason, and that would be the best team in the Big Ten Western Division. Now, here we are because of Illinois being able to hold serve with only 1 loss in the Big Ten, and that a curious one at this point in the season when you look back about the Illini losing to Indiana. But they're holding serve, of course, and they've got a date against Purdue coming up that's going to be huge. Minnesota gets back in the win column, 31-0 against Rutgers. We know what the Rutgers offense has been, which has been dismal. Obviously, they fired their offensive coordinator a few weeks ago, but the defense has been respectable. Minnesota broke it open in the fourth quarter. Just your evaluation of the Gophers on Saturday.
Yeah, just a classic old school physical football game. Running the football, mixing it up, inside zone, outside zone, mid zone, split zone. Featuring Brevin Spanford, tight end in the scheme, getting him lined up in different places to create numbers advantages in the run and pass game. The big thing with Minnesota this season has been just the wide receivers not being able to consistently catch the ball, win in contested catch situations, and just get open consistently when teams are playing man coverage. You got a lot of teams just stacking the box, playing man coverage on the perimeter, forcing Minnesota's wide receivers to get open and taking away the run game. But despite Rutgers dedicating a lot of resources to the run game, Minnesota just was able to win up front, generate a lot of movement, and do some things formationally that got them some good matchups. So that was kind of the story in the Rutgers game.
I'll get you one more question, and then I'll cut Greg loose here. Obviously, with the aspirations of this team going into the season, with the head-to-head tiebreaker loss against Illinois, the Illini again, 1 loss, and Minnesota with 3 in the conference. It looks as though the division's out of play. You know, what is this team playing for? Do you think the team is motivated to achieve something in this season?
Oh, yeah, I think there's a lot to play for. I'm going to Nebraska this week and also have games against Iowa and Wisconsin, both trophy matchups. And a lot of experienced players came back this season with high aspirations, lots of 6-year players, and they're all sticking around, playing hard. And the team is just every week trying to get better. You know, that 3-game losing streak, it was just a lot of different things. Like the Purdue game, 4 or 5 plays, you had a drop touchdown in the end zone. Goes right through the receiver's hands, Mike Brown-Stevens, interception. Huge lightning rod moment in the game. So you go back, you look at 3 plays in that game. Then you play the Illinois game, and Illinois has a great scheme, puts together a plan that Minnesota wasn't quite ready for. You know, defensively, gave up a few big plays, couldn't get off the field. We're on the field for 86 snaps defensively. Offensively, they couldn't sustain anything. And then you go to Penn State, and it's explosive plays. The tight end was featured prominently, attacking cover 2 in the middle of the field, and Minnesota gave up too many explosive plays. So it was a different theme in each game, but if you swap out and execute in a couple of plays here or there, you might have won one of those games, and you're probably talking differently about the Big Ten West race. So it's just been little things like that. Chris Ottman-Bell's injury was a big deal, too. They really needed him in that wide receiver room and sort of didn't have players pan out to expectations. Someone like Dalen Wright, a transfer that came from Texas A&M last year that they were hoping would make a big leap, just hasn't been able to do that. And then Mo Ibrahim missed the Purdue game as well, so that was a big factor in that one, too.
Greg, you got anything for Daniel?
What kind of got me, Daniel, was when they announced the game time at 11 a.m. I don't like those, but I was a little bit excited because, that's going to throw Minnesota off a little bit. You got to travel down here, on Friday, get in here, later afternoon on Friday, and basically, try to get settled in the hotel and stuff. And, everything's accelerated for Minnesota. Go right to meetings and then, right to bed pretty much when you're still kind of, you're probably coming into town where it's getting dark and you're trying to see a little bit of the city. And, you got to be ready to go for an 11 a.m. kickoff. Has there been much talk about that around the team?
There hasn't been a lot of talk around the 11 a.m. game. They played quite a few of those in the past. This is an experienced team that's played in a lot of those situations. They had an 11 a.m. game in Illinois earlier this season, a couple of primetime games mixed in there as well. So they played in, different start times throughout this season and before as well, because they have a lot of 6-year players. So it's definitely not something that the players aren't used to before.
Right. And, Nebraska, obviously, including last week and to finish out the season, going up against some of the best running backs in the country, basically. And, that's, they did a decent job last week in the first half. And then when things kind of got away with it, they gave up some yards. But I don't know, is Minnesota just looking to pound the ball when they get here, or what are they kind of thinking?
Yeah, I'd say run the ball is definitely the formula right now, just with the way Minnesota's passing game has looked. They sort of did some things with Brevin Spanford, moving him out wide into the slot, in line as an H-back sort of tight end, and trying to just put him in different alignments to mess with the defense and then get him opportunities to get open through design. So watch tight end Brevin Spanford as kind of the weapon in the passing game. They wanted to find ways to sort of get the quick passing game established and find a rhythm offensively. That's been the thing this year. The passing game hasn't been able to get going early, and then they've been behind the sticks, average to go distances in that 8-yard range, 7.5. And then you're climbing uphill. You're not efficient on early downs. So that certainly impacts your offensive play calling strategy. So last week, what you saw is Minnesota come out, blending between the run and pass, moving players around formationally, and sort of being able to successfully run the ball even when Rutgers was stacking the box a little bit, still able to find ways through design and scheme tweaks. Look at Mo Ibrahim. Unbelievable. 60% of his yards came after contact in the last game, 9 forced missed tackles. And I don't even think he's 100% right now. Like, he was injured in the Purdue game, didn't play in the Purdue game, got injured against Michigan State, and has, missed one game, came back, had the bye week, but still doesn't even feel like he's 100% yet. But Minnesota's offensive line, a lot of new faces up there that had to adjust this season. I felt like this was the best game overall for execution in the run game. Still have some liabilities in the pass game protection side of things that PJ Fleck talked about with us today, that he'd like to see that get tuned up. Pad level in the run game being more consistent, but I would say the formula is definitely the running the football and maybe a little more misdirection than Minnesota has shown before. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, just starting to dig into Nebraska a bit.
Hey, I'll take a subpar, sub 100% Mo Ibrahim over almost anybody anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll say this about Mo. Like, Mo is one of the most unique players that I've covered while doing Minnesota. Like, he approaches the game and sees it differently than a lot of people. That's what PJ Fleck was talking about with us recently, is just his knowledge of the system. When he was out last year with the torn Achilles, he was sitting in right with the coaches, learning the scheme, so he could see the game differently. And PJ said it reminded him a lot of Doug Martin, his pass protection skills when he was in Tampa Bay in the NFL. I just said he's one of the best backs he's been around, just seeing the game. And so it's been fun watching Mo play this year. He gives it his all every week and runs with just insane pad level. I think that's the unique trait that he brings.
So I want to. What was kind of the the mood around there? I know it was maybe a week ago, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, when somebody had said that PJ Fleck was and Nebraska had mutual interest, and I don't want to make fun of the person that broke that on Twitter or anything like that. But how was that accepted there in Minneapolis?
It didn't gain any traction up in Minneapolis, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know. That's something that did catch steam in the news cycle up here.
Yeah. That's funny. So with the uncertainty right now with Nebraska at the quarterback position too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's got to be something that PJ Fleck and his coaching staff's kind of sweating about right now, because you don't know what you're going to get.
Well, that's been the story all year. I mean, you go back to Purdue, Aiden O'Connell had an injury. They weren't sure if he was going to play. Illinois, DeVito, he was injured the previous week in the Iowa game. Then you play Penn State. Sean Clifford's got a shoulder problem. You don't know if Drew Aller or him's going. Then last week, you got the same situation with the quarterbacks as well at Rutgers, where you thought maybe Wimsatt might play or Vedral. You weren't quite sure. And now this week, again, you have quarterback uncertainty. Don't know who's going to play. So Joe Rossi and the defensive staff are just preparing for everything. And I believe, Casey Thompson, just watching what he's done this season and what he brings to the offense, if he's unavailable, that changes a lot of things. I mean, I'm watching the Trey Palmer matchup out of the slot, 70% rate in the slot right now. How will Minnesota defend that? They've mixed the nickel spot with Beanie Bishop, Ryan Stapp. Michael Dixon's been more of the hybrid versatile nickel. So I want to see that matchup in this game. Trey Palmer, I think he's an impressive player. One of the highest graded receiver right now in the Power 5 via Pro Football Focus. So I love watching him play, and I'm excited for that matchup just to see how Minnesota approaches that. I think this game will probably come down to Minnesota's defensive line versus Nebraska's O-line. Minnesota's defensive line has not really lived up to what I thought maybe it would in terms of just being able to get interior pocket push. I think that was the recipe for success last year, where edge rushers were able to get better matchups and retrace rushes and finish sacks, where this year they have not received that level of pass rush win inside. So I'm expecting a lot of D-line stunts, maybe a few blitzes here and there. Just looking at Nebraska's O-line, going back, watching some of the film and stuff. Those are the things that I could see Minnesota trying to use a little bit.
I'm kind of thinking now this is just if Casey Thompson cannot play, I'm thinking maybe it's you get a double dose of you get Chubba Purdy
for sure,
kind of running things normally, and then you got Logan Smothers coming in running a lot of RPO and trying to take advantage of that. So that could work in Nebraska's favor if that's the outcome. I mean, we won't know anything more until tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. Central, when Mickey Joseph takes the podium tomorrow. But a lot of interesting storylines going on, a few days before this game right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And, I was just digging into Nebraska's defense a bit, and I'm looking at the advanced stats going, okay, what was the difference when Bill Busch took over defensively? So you go back and you look at it, and I look at expected points added per play, and I went, okay, this is just a bit of an improvement. You see it on film, obviously, watching them play, but number 121 out of 131 teams under Chinander. Now you're up to 32 in defensive expected points added. The bigger thing was the limiting of explosive plays. They're number 20 right now in the explosiveness metric, and they're doing a very good job on passing downs. They're 5th in the FBS right now in passing downs expected points added. So being able to limit explosive plays, do a better job on passing downs, that's been the difference. And also just seeing them simplify the scheme down, let those guys play fast, don't put too much on their plate. That's what I see when I look at their defense, and I'm kind of curious to get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's been a complete attitude change and simplifying things like that. It's just basically read and react now. Don't worry about where you think you're supposed to be. Just play fast and free. And it's really made a big difference. And installing, I mean, obviously there's some injuries there, and you have guys that are having to step up. I mean, losing Nick Henrich is a big deal. As a captain as well. But obviously, I mean, if you even look last week, Luke Reimer he had a big game and stepped up, and he's the one who's taken over that leadership role. But and guys like Isaac Gifford have come up big at the nickel spot, and I think it's just they're playing more together. Malcolm Herzog as a true freshman thrown in there as a starting corner has really played very well. Guys just getting opportunities that that they hadn't been getting, I think, has made a big difference. And Bill Bush really, he brings out the best in guys, just like Mickey Joseph does. I mean, I couldn't think of better motivators in the game. I mean, PJ Fleck would be right up there in my book as well. But these guys know how to motivate their players and get on the same level with them. And you just don't give them too much to think about and just go out there and have fun and play the game that you know how to play, that you've been playing forever. And it's made a big difference, obviously. I'm not sure that Coach Shenander had success, obviously, in the previous few years. But I'm not sure where the wheels all fell off there. But obviously Bill Bush has come in and has been a big difference maker. And you see a defense now that plays a lot more physical than they had been. And, starting to come up with some of those plays that had been lacking earlier in the season.
Well, that's what I'm watching for is the physicality on both sides of the ball. Minnesota's very physical, especially on their O-line, and that's the way they played last week. So I want to see how Nebraska responds to that right away, because I feel like Minnesota will try to hit hard with outside zone, maybe some misdirection, try to be creative in the running game to just get the physicality established early on, get off to a quick start, and then sort of milk the clock. That was the name of the game against Rutgers. I think with Nebraska's defense, I always comp defensive football to like when you watch Gordon Ramsay and he goes to those like kitchen nightmare shows,
Exactly.
And he's like, simplify your menu, do what you do best. And you know what? You just cook the very good steak and give the nice side, You don't have to have the big menu. That's when you get into trouble. You aren't as good defensively because you got a lot on guys' plates versus simplifying it down, get them to play fast, mix up your coverages, and that's how you got to play. The little subtle tweaks that make it hard for the offense to diagnose the coverage, change that picture. That's the key.
And in my book, Minnesota's been the much more physical team the last 4 or 5 years, seriously, which is very disturbing for Nebraska fans and faithful. So that is obviously that's the biggest change that's been made since Mickey Joseph and Bill Bush kind of took over running things. Yeah,
and that's what Nebraska fans I feel like are looking for.
That's what Nebraska was based on for all those years, is out physical the opponent.
Yep, and it just hasn't been that way. When you watch them play, especially early in the season, I'm like, man, this does not look like Big Ten physicality at all.
But Northwestern pushed them all over the place. Yeah,
unbelievable to see them get pushed around like that. So I'm just interested to see what they do this offseason, how they approach the head coach search. Do they stick with Mickey? How do they handle it? I'm very fascinated in how that search ends.
Yep, and I think the whole country is.
Yeah,
fascinated by it too.
Well, that's the thing. I think that physicality is the big thing. Being able to, find someone who's going to prioritize that at Nebraska again. That's the key. Set that tone, establish that culture, get it rolling.
Yep.
Got Daniel House on the line. You can catch him covering the Minnesota Gophers there at Gophers Guru. Also, the NFL Vikings Corner, your 2 Twitter destinations. That's gophersguru.com as well. And Daniel, I'll leave you on this, a Tanner Morgan question, because obviously, we talked quite a bit during the offseason about is this a return to 2019 with Kirk Ciarrocca taking the offense back over? as he had in 2019. Obviously, it's not been that. And Tanner Morgan, unlike any quarterback that comes to mind, has almost had two different careers, not in regards to winning percentage necessarily, because of the upgraded defense and running game in the last few years, but certainly, those 30 TD, 7 pick numbers from 2019. So what has happened there? What has not happened?
Isn't he about 32 years old now?
It seems like it was forever ago that has not allowed him to regain that kind of form.
Yeah, I'd say it just comes down to receiver play right now. You look at 2019 when Minnesota was successful, it was multi-dimensional offense. And I say that like you got to decide how you want to play Minnesota. You got Mo Abraham and Rodney Smith, Shannon Brooks in the backfield. You're able to run the ball. So it's like, all right, do you want to dedicate an extra defender in the box? But then you got receivers on the outside that can win vertically. You're able to throw that ball downfield, get people into those coverages, and then you come back with the RPOs in that quick game. Well, you had the receivers with Tyler Johnson, Rashad Bateman, Chris Ottman-Bell, Demetrius Douglas, 4 very good receivers. Yeah. This year, you haven't been able to have that type of wide receiver play. You got Chris Ottman-Bell, who was injured in the non-conference play. Daniel Jackson's a good receiver, but he was injured early in camp, worked his way back, then coming in trying to get his footing. Then Dalen Wright, transfer earlier that I talked about from Texas A&M, who you went to practices and he just natural ability, 6'3", 210, big body target, just would win all these big plays in practice. And you're going, okay, I see some flashes. Maybe he's going to take the next step. And then it just hasn't clicked. So he, to me, felt like the X factor player on offense. Minnesota needed another receiver, especially after Chris Ottman-Bell went down. So not having him has sort of led to Minnesota not having the receiver talent to win against man coverage. So what you saw a lot in these last 3 games is, cover one, lots of people in the box, force Minnesota to get open on the perimeter, people sitting on those RPOs, taking those away, and making Minnesota unable to be multi-dimensional offensively. They've been more one-dimensional in that area, so it takes everything you got. You got to use formations. You got to use motion. You got to find ways to get your playmakers the football and lean more on tight end Brevin Spanford, who 6'7", 270-pound tight end with a basketball background that can go up and get the ball, win in space. So you saw the last 2 games him become the feature point in the offense with a lot of different designs and moving him all over. So that's what Nebraska fans should watch for. I'm interested to see if Nebraska takes the approach of man coverage and just really try to lock it down, press at the line of scrimmage, and take away the run game. That's how I would probably guess that they'll scheme.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah.
Minnesota opened as a 10.5-point favorite. It's ballooned to the 14 to 15-point range. Much of that has to do with Casey Thompson's status at this point. Right. Daniel House. Daniel, we would like everyone to be able to catch up with your work. So where's the best place to find you?
You can check out my work at gophersguru.com, a $5 subscription package for the premium content for all subscribers.
Awesome. Daniel, thanks so much for stopping by. Enjoy the game on Saturday.
It's always great. Love talking with you guys.
What do you think, before you go, what do you think? Yeah. What do you think about my Bears trading away Roquan Smith?
Well, I was surprised. I wasn't surprised, but I'm going, well, the Bears are trying to get all these picks. I think they have 6 picks in the first 4 rounds now in the draft. So Ryan Poles is saying, all right, let's get all these picks. Let's try to rebuild this thing with some youth, get some receivers for Justin Fields. Now you got to dedicate all these resources to the defense because you trade away Robert Quinn, you trade away Roquan Smith. I don't think, they got some young pieces in the secondary, Jalen Johnson. You can build around that, but now you got to figure out the pass rush and the linebacker spot now. So there's going to be some retooling going on, but with Eberflus playing the 4-3 defense, you want to see them get the right personnel. So I guess Roquan, if you can get that pick and you feel comfortable with it, that's what you do, because he probably is someone that you're not going to have long-term. Might as well get that pick compensation.
Yep, and you have the most calories cap space in the whole NFL going into next year. So
Right. So you're positioned well with, all those picks in the first 4 rounds, 6 of them, and then all that money. So now you'll see if the Bears made the right general manager hire. I see flashes, though, with the coaching staff, with Eberflus, and I see them playing with better fundamentals, not as many of those mistakes where you're going, it just doesn't look like this team's well coached. I see more flashes, and I like how you're starting to see some things get built around Justin Fields that suits his strengths. So, yeah, we just went on NFL talk. We can talk about NFL, but
I'll throw one more at you.
Now I know why I like you, Daniel.
I'll throw one more at you. Are the Vikings equipped to go deep into the playoffs?
Here's what I'll say about the Vikings. I want to see if they make a trade tomorrow, because I look and I watch the All-22 and I look at their offense right now and I say, all right, if they could get one vertical stretch receiver with some speed, it would add another dimension to that offense, because you look at Justin Jefferson, how teams are taking him away right now, and watching KJ and Thielen get better matchups. The route running ability with one vertical stretch receiver to complement that, I think that would be one of the missing pieces with the offense. I do think that the defense has a little bit of a liability at nickel corner with Shannon Sullivan. So maybe they go that route, try to trade for nickel corner, like Sean Murphy-Bunting from the Tampa Bay Bucks is someone that I admire on. But I look at their offense. I say, do you make a move on offense or defense? I think you make the move on offense because of the weapons that you have on that side of the ball. If you can outscore everybody, your defense is probably a middle of the pack group right now. And so I would invest in the offense to try to take it to the next level.
There it is. All right. We could keep going with this. But
hey, this is the best one ever. We get to talk college football and NFL. I love it.
I know. I'm a guy. Some people are like, they all want to talk college football or all NFL. I like a blend of both.
But I can't. The thing that bothers me is when I run into people that are huge college football fans, but don't watch the NFL, don't care for the NFL at all.
Oh, there's a ton of them.
It's mind-boggling to me.
See, what I enjoy is watching the college guys work their way up, and then I see him in the NFL, and I go, I watch this guy's whole career.
That guy when he was in high school and when he was in college.
Yeah, you get that because, like, you watch Boye Mafe play for the Seahawks yesterday, second sack of his career. Like, man, Boye was such a cool guy to cover. That's the fun part.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, Greg, you know what caught my eye last night watching the Bills and Packers? Samori Toure had a huge touchdown
for the
Packers.
Yeah.
And the thing that was awesome to see about that is he hasn't played. He had a great preseason, hasn't played. He gets his shot, and he's on the same page with Aaron Rodgers, who throws the deep ball, and he reads the secondary, Toure, and he goes to the end zone, and they're on the same page, and you could tell Rodgers was locked in right with him, ran down the field, and was like, this kid got it. He was – because watching this Packers offense, it resembles nothing like what it was 3 or 4 years ago. Everything's just a dump off into the flats to Aaron Jones. They have
side to side.
Hey, I wish the Bears had the Packers coming up this weekend, right? Because I think the Bears would kill them right now, as opposed to earlier in the year.
Toure, man, I always thought, like, man, he could have had an even better career at Nebraska. You know.
It is very solid. You can't, 1 year
right
is what it is. But, if he would have had multiple years, I think, obviously, because you see what Trey Palmer's come in and done in 1 year and has already vaulted himself up the all-time list at the university all time. So, some pretty special wide receivers coming through here in their later stages of their career.
Well, that's why if Nebraska can figure out getting physical up front, being able to run the ball, that they've been able to show they can get the playmakers at receiver. Yep. That's been the thing with Minnesota is like that's the next step for them is the receiver talent, and Nebraska I feel like is the physicality.
Exactly. Yep.
So.
Well, with the places that NIL might be taking us, maybe there'll be trades in college football at some point soon, and Ohio State may want some defensive back help for some of those wide receivers.
$50,000 in NIL money trade, and NIL cash considerations.
That's it.